So, good evening. Welcome to the Diablo 3 podcast. I am your host, Flux, back to talking about the game, if not actually having time to play the game. I'm on with a couple of new potential first-time guests, and if this turns out well, it'll be posted, and if not, I am talking to myself. So, first up is, what should we call you? Warren, what's your cool online name?
Well, depends if you think WoW is cool. I got my...
Nobody thinks WoW is cool.
Well, my Battle.net tag is Meldenick, and I got it from when I started playing WoW all those years ago, and it's sort of stuck, so... You want to go with that?
It can be cool, because it's so unironically not cool that therefore it kind of becomes cool. Like Napoleon Dynamite or something.
Or like that bit on Family Guy when Peter Griffin skins his knee and just keeps wincing in pain for about 2 minutes.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, other person, Captain Goldfish. Are we calling you Captain Goldfish?
Yeah.
You have a customized avatar showing like a goldfish in a bowl with like a sword and a shield.
Yeah, I figured I'd better put something on there rather than be blank.
A little background on your intro stuff. Mel first up, since you're on the left on the screen, which means you have to go first at all times. Back up a little bit. I mean, like, how did you get into like Diablo series?
Oh.
Are you into ARPGs? You know, just sort of, not 10 minutes long, but just give us a sense of why you're a cool person who should be on the podcast and why your opinions are important.
Well, I started in Diablo 1. I used to work for EA, which was sort of connected to Blizzard North, and we were testing Diablo at the time, and so me and my friends all just started playing it. We had our LAN parties, and we'd get on and hook our computers together on weekends and play. So I played a lot of Diablo. Not a lot of Diablo 2. I think I was on to other games at that point, but then Diablo 3 came out. I was at BlizzCon 2009 and played the demo, and then I got super excited, and then Diablo 3 came out, and the rest is history. I've been playing that ever since.
So you've been playing since launch. Have you had any huge hiatuses, or you've still been enjoying it all along?
I had a bit of a break between the end of Vanilla and when Reapers of Souls came out. The Paragon grind, I got about to level 40 on the original grind and just kind of got tired of that Alkaizer run and decided I'll take a little break for a while. And then next thing I know, Reapers is out, and I'm right back in. They just kept pulling me back in.
So you missed all the fun of doing the same stupid content in Act 1 over and over again, after we got tired of doing the stupid content of Act 3 over and over again. There was so much variety back in those days.
Yeah, I'm a little embarrassed to say that I never beat Diablo on Hell, and I've got that one hole in my achievement list, but, it's a shame I've learned to live with.
You got to Paragon 40, never killed Diablo?
Oh, I killed Diablo, I just didn't do it on Hell.
Okay, you're off the podcast. Okay, next guest. So, Captain Goldfish, how long have you been a big Diablo fan forever? Do you play ARPGs, other kinds of games, or what's your history here?
Mostly, yeah, I played Diablo. I played 1, 2, and 3. I played them a lot. In between, I played a World War II flight simulator that's now long dead. And that was the only thing, I think that was between 1 and 2. Once 2 came out, Diablo 2, I played that pretty steady. Really until... I stopped playing right before that Super Diablo thing came out, so I really don't understand what that was. When you would you could spend your SOJs to spawn one. That's when I stopped.
I don't think anybody else understands that either.
Yeah,
in retrospect.
When that came out, I was like, I don't know what that is, and I'm getting tired of it. But Diablo 3, I have played constantly since it was released. I played the beta till I was tired of that. And I've taken I took a couple weeks off, like maybe 3 weeks at the end of one of the seasons. But then
3 whole weeks, huh?
Yeah, really. That.
Wow, you call yourself a fan?
A bit. Yeah, I did get a monk up to I got 100 para on my monk. Mostly in the Fields of Misery.
Did you beat Hell Diablo, or did you max out there, too?
I beat everything, yeah.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, I
just had to check.
And then I lost him at 399 hours and 25 minutes the second day of ROS after getting him to 70, so...
Well, he lived a full life.
To a disconnect. In the Fields of Misery, that makes it all come around.
Well, that's why they call them the Fields of Misery.
Yeah.
Dude. So how did you go from Diablo 1 to Diablo 2 to, like, Pride of the Luftwaffe and then back to Diablo 3? This is like a kind of an odd genre shift there. And was the game actually called The Pride of the Luftwaffe? That'd be a pretty cool name for a World War II fighter, I think.
It was called
actually.
Air Warrior, and I did it.
Oh, that's just awful.
Yeah, and it was a small.
Well, they really
game.
went deep into the brainstorming for that title. Let's see, it's a game about. Was it called World War II Air Warrior or just Air Warrior?
No, it was just Air Warrior. It was on AOL too for a long time.
Wow.
Did it come on a disc in the mail?
No, you had to download it from the.
Yeah, 14 floppy disks.
I think there was a point where you could buy it on a disc. I never did buy the disc, but yeah, it was fun. It was a very fun little community.
It just seems a very obviously an entirely different genre than you're playing Diablo 1 or Diablo 2.
It was, but that was like in my first online. You know, it was a really large online experience. There were a lot of people on there. As opposed to Diablo, where I can't remember, the first one was not very many people.
And then Diablo 2 was entirely populated by Pindlebots.
Yeah. I tend to form like a small little community of friends that I like to play. I seek out people that seem to be a little bit older, and kind of hang out with those people.
Older than what?
I think there's they're either 15 or they're 40.
Sounds like my dating history. But okay, so Mel, what has your Diablo 3 experience been? I mean, what are your main classes? Are you hardcore, softcore? Do you still wish there was PvP? What is your agenda?
I'm currently I've been having a little internet issue, so I've been focusing on softcore, particularly after all the disconnects and the lag with the season 4 and then season 5. I've primarily been playing a witch doctor, but I always get that up to geared out, and then I usually jump on like an alternate. This season's been the Crusader, and I've been really enjoying the Thorns build quite a bit.
So witch doctors were horrible for multiple. I mean, not horrible, but they weren't competitive at the top, and they've never really been a big party class. Have you felt left out of the main macro?
Well, since seasons they've been, except for season 4, they've been in the group meta, but.
Yeah, you had the debuff and the permafear and stuff.
Being supports gets pretty boring pretty fast, so I tend to just solo a bit after I get up enough Paragon levels. You know, hitting the same buttons over and over and grabbing health globes gets pretty monotonous after a while. So, but
yeah, and last season was the first time witch doctors were like a viable thing by themselves, but they had that huge lag issue with all the minion stuff.
Yeah. Oh man.
So they like taunted you. They finally made your class worthwhile, and then it was bugged at the same time.
Yeah, I was pushing GRs, and I would be humming along, and then all of a sudden a pack of like 50 zombies would roll onto the screen, and next thing I know, I'm dead, and I've timed out, and I was just like, that's it. I can't handle this anymore. So I got to 65 and just decided to stop pushing GRs, and then I prayed that they would get that fixed. So I'm living vicariously through my high level dreams through the group meta. So we've been doing 90s on the witch doctor. So I kind of feel like it's like I'm living it, but I know I'm being carried a bit. But
well, I think you should say you're doing the carrying. You're just making them hold still, so you hold them still so they can hit them, right?
Yeah, if I wasn't giving the wizard what he needed to cast all those whirlwinds, let's be honest, we wouldn't be going very far.
Have you tried the PTR where they've nerfed a lot of that stuff?
I haven't gone.
Are you happy that it's all nerfed for next season?
I am happy because I would like to see some shifts in the group meta. It's kind of been the same the whole way through. I mean, the witch doctor dropped out for one season, but it's usually a monk is tanking and barbarian is somehow involved. You get a witch doctor because he's got a lot of group buffs, and then somebody's the high DPS if it's a demon hunter or a wizard or something.
Or a demon hunter or a wizard or a demon hunter.
Yeah.
There's a lot of variety in the highest.
So I'm kind of curious to see how this will shake out. I have no problem with them nerfing everybody's abilities to drop globes and sort of limiting the whirlwinds. I mean, they hit it hard with the ban hammer or the nerf hammer, but they sort of pulled back on it because I think it's up to 8 whirlwinds now.
Yeah, it's funny. When the first patch notes came out for the PTR, it was like the only real nerfs were like the two, barbarian. Okay, you can no longer make 1 billion health globes, and wizard you can no longer make 1 billion whirlwinds because of health globes. It was like, well, it's pretty. Obviously, they're isolating the exact problem.
Yeah,
at least in their opinion.
They clearly had an objective to achieve.
And I had just gotten on the health globe kick. I had never really had much to do with that, but just this season, one of the laws for the Crusaders spawns health globes, and that was great. And they changed it next season so that it doesn't spawn any.
Yeah, otherwise the Crusader would have become the party carrying support person or something. But they've also nerfed, I mean, a few seasons ago, Demon Hunters were the big deal with health globes because there were builds that you could use massive hatred and you get all the health globes and you can keep firing. And obviously, Wizards vastly superseded that in the current season. But it seems like the health globe thing is being eliminated on the whole.
Yeah, well, see, for my Crusader, I was using the health globes to actually heal myself, not to do anything else. I would leave them behind and I would run back when I was in danger, which happened quite often.
Yeah, that's not exactly the 4-player meta at this point, is it?
No, that was solo.
Running back in for anything or at any point pausing your destruction.
I've run quite a bit.
Kiting. I remember kiting, like the first days of Inferno. So same thing for you, Captain Goldfish. What's your Diablo 3 history been? We talked a little bit before we were recording about this, but you play hardcore. What are your classes been primarily?
Yeah, I play hardcore. When we first started off, I think I went the really slow route of trying to level all the characters at once. So I would play one for a while, then I would play the other one, and I did not look anything up. I didn't know at all what I was doing. I was just picking up whatever gear and whatever looked better for my DPS. But yeah,
you sound like one of the Blizzard designers.
Yeah, I took it really slow, and I missed out on all the the Whirlwind Barbarian. I missed out on that till after they nerfed it. But I had a good time. I played them. I played all the classes. I finally ended up. I stuck with a barb for a long time, and I had a little group of friends, and I was kind of a tank barb. So anything that had life, vitality on it, and just made me tougher, I just put all that on, and we would just kind of survive things. And then I got into the monk, and I really loved the Cyclone Strike. So I was really enjoying that play style, and got that guy to 100, and I retired him until he died.
And then he was retired permanently. So
yeah, now he sits there, and,
that was your voluntary retirement.
Yeah,
it soon became involuntary.
When you retired somebody, you did it right.
Well, after you got to 100, you had to kind of stop playing him because it seemed pointless. Once I got him to 100, I had to either start a new monk, or if I played him, you weren't getting any Paragon, and you just kept risking losing your super guy. So,
but it was a great way to find gear for the auction house, though.
Yeah, I didn't use the auction house either. I didn't use auction house until very late in the game, and I didn't.
You were just waiting until the commas were working, right?
Yeah, it was almost to there. Well, what happened was I had a barb that was really great. All my self-found stuff back when it was really hard to find stuff, and I lost him to the game crashed. I can't remember where it was in this one of the cemeteries back when you had to look for the Nephilim, the 5 stacks, and so I lost him there.
Really
I leveled up a new one with all my second best gear. Went to the exact same spot the first game and died again. So that was the first time where I'm like, okay, I need to go to the auction house, and I actually. I ended up buying some gold on one of those sites because it was either that or quit because I was so upset, and so that was my real first experience with the auction house, and it did make it nice and easy to just gear back up. But I hated the whole auction house. I'm glad it's gone.
Yeah, we were talking about that a few weeks ago on the podcast, probably a couple of months ago at this point. My sense of time is as blurring out like a LSD trip at this point. But mentioning when people first hit the B Club, as we used to call it, when you first became a billionaire from finding gold and selling gold, and you just bought your way to the B Club.
Yeah, I didn't like that. I didn't like the...
I don't like that either. I don't like that you bought your way to it. You're supposed to find one lucky piece of item and then sell that in the game, and then you have 1 billion gold.
That's how I did it. I got a really amazing ring and dropped it on there, and just watched the price skyrocket. It was a glorious day.
Yeah, it's kind of sad how many of people's best memories from the first year of Diablo 3 were making auction house sales.
Yeah, the beauty of playing a witch doctor in vanilla WoW is that you didn't really concern yourself with getting all the best gear because you were terrible anyways. So you could really focus on finding items that were really good and putting them immediately on the auction house.
I can't believe you just said vanilla WoW. I'm so disappointed.
Oh, did I? Sorry. Vanilla Diablo.
Vanilla WoW.
Oh.
Okay, speaking of WoW, have you guys seen any of the Warcraft movie trailers lately? And is that going to make any money? Does anybody care, or does it seem like it's just 5 years too late?
I think it might break even. I think they put too much money into it, and I don't think there's enough WoW people who are going to go see it. But there's still millions of people playing the game, so.
I saw the trailer the other day, but I didn't turn my head to look at it. I was playing.
Yeah,
as I play Diablo, I have a little TV going on the side, and it was on there. And I kind of noticed, hey, that's World of Warcraft. That seems weird.
I think I asked someone about this in the podcast like 6 months or a year ago or something. I still have no idea why there are green orcs and like flesh-toned orcs in the same movie. I'm sure there's like some really logical lore reason for this, but it just seems weird. It's like they ran out of coloration on like just watching the video. Like they ran out of like cyan or something. And okay, we can't make them green anymore. We're just gonna make half of them flesh-toned. But they're exactly the same. They still have giant teeth, and so the lip sync looks all weird when they talk.
Well, I think it's going to be like Westerns. You know how in old Westerns the good guy wore white and the bad guy wore black? So I think that's how you're going to differentiate the orcs.
Because like I played Warcraft 1 and Warcraft 2, like back the RTS, and I really enjoyed those games in the old days, and all the orcs were green. So I'm not really sure where the flesh-toned orcs, the white, I almost call them white orcs, that sound like they'd be white, but I don't know, the color of crayons that say flesh-toned back when they still had crayons that said flesh-toned.
Yeah. I love those games, but I've never played the World of Warcraft at all.
I don't know, I hadn't watched any movie trailers in forever, and I just watched about 10 of them last night. I just went, if you're really bored, just like go to YouTube and just search on trailer. And not even any specific trailer, just trailer, and it'll show you like a lot of recent ones that are popular and stuff. Like I hadn't even seen the trailer for like Suicide Squad or what other upcoming movies that are like people are all hyped about.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, Warcraft. It's on like page 3, Warcraft. I'm like, oh yeah, that movie's still coming out. And I don't know. I was, if it came out 5 years ago, it would have been ignored because it looks like The Hobbit, right? Like it was sort of competing with like Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. And maybe it's been long enough now that people are ready for a new fantasy CGI movie.
Yeah, I don't know. Even people
or
I
maybe
know
not.
that play a lot of WoW are still like, that doesn't look so good. Like it looks pretty cartoony. Like the CGI doesn't look so smooth. Like the new Planet of the Apes movie, I mean, that looks really good CGI, but...
Is that out, or is it just the trailer?
It was the one from last year?
Last year? Yeah, I don't know. I was wondering, I must have missed that trailer last night. Oh, no. I don't think I saw the movie either, but whatever.
That must be back on page 10.
Yeah,
keep digging.
Well, it's old.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway, so, massive digression aside. I'm sure there's some World of Warcraft fan like, no, I love the game. I don't know. I never really cared about I guess the lore was kind of cool in the early ones when it was like really savage and the orcs were like total monsters, and now they're trying to like all humanize them, and we must work with the humans. We must work with the humans to make peace, blah blah blah, and their stupid giant tusks. I don't know. People at Blizzcon are crazy about it. I mean, they had the world premiere. Like they showed like a 30-second clip of it like 2 years ago. You had to go up in a special theater upstairs. And like it was all, like a 50-foot high screen. You could like see the pores in their skin and the lip sync, and it looked really good. But they had like one little 1/10 of a second shot of like every class. And like, oh, there's a blood elf, and all the blood elf fans stand up and cheer. But I don't know if real people are gonna care about it. But I guess we'll see, or possibly not.
Well, yeah, I forgot how much I liked the old Warcraft games, and how much the new one has nothing to do with Warcraft to me. So whenever World of Warcraft is mentioned, I think of the old Warcraft games, and I don't know what happened.
They wanted to make money.
Yeah.
So they did. Either of you guys ever been to BlizzCon? Are you real Blizzard fans, or are you just like the kind that show up on the internet?
I'm holding my 2009 security fob right now.
I have
Always?
not.
Do you just carry it with you at all times, or?
Yeah, actually I do.
Is that the only one you've been to, though?
Yeah, that's the only one.
One was enough. Where are you? Where's your location in the real world?
Oh, I'm up in Vancouver, Canada.
So yeah, obviously you're not driving to BlizzCon.
Well, I can, but it is 24-hour drive, so it's a little long.
And you have to wait till it snows, right? Because you only have a dog sled team to take you anywhere.
Well, fortunately, Vancouver is the one spot in Canada where it doesn't quite make it into snow. It just rains all the time.
Yeah, but you're too close to Seattle, so you're cursed.
You got that right.
So, where is your physical location? Another person?
I am in Iowa. So
No dog sleds, huh?
no, but you could. It gets really cold and it gets really hot.
And are you aware that you're free to leave?
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't been. There's rivers on like both sides, so.
Oh, but it's flat as far as the eye can see, right?
Surprisingly, not. If you're, I'm a cyclist as well, so I do a lot of bike racing, and it is not flat. It's very bumpy.
And does your farm grow wheat or corn?
Corn and
Okay,
soybeans.
Good. Awesome. It's nice when all the stereotypes come true, isn't it?
Yeah, and the corn, most people think you could eat the corn. The corn you can't eat. It's no good.
They just boil it down to make Coca-Cola, basically?
They feed it to the cows. We've got those too.
Awesome.
So
I was in
I
was in Iowa. I drove through Iowa last year, and I almost got hit by a tornado.
We've got those too. Yeah.
If you're going to get into stereotypes, I encountered one while I was driving through the Midwest.
There was a flying cow in the middle of it, right?
Yeah.
Just like in the movies?
Yeah. And a house, a big farmhouse, nearly landed.
Did it land on a witch? Yeah. I think that was Kansas, but you're close enough there.
Well, she seemed like a nice lady. I wouldn't have called her a witch, but
no,
her feet did curl up pretty hard when that building landed.
And you're still wearing the slippers that you took off of her, right? And if you ever need to go home, it's like instead of using a town portal, it's like the ruby red town portal.
That's right. I have blue slippers now for Diablo.
So before I mentioned the Blizzcon thing, I was thinking about PvP. I mean, that was a big thing. So you actually got to play the PvP demo? I think it was available in 09, I believe.
When I was there, the monk was the big reveal. So we got to play the monk through essentially the first part of Act 2.
Yeah, I think PvP was actually in 10 and 11, so you were a year early for that.
Yeah, I didn't get the PvP.
So have either of you guys ever done brawling or any sort of PvP in Diablo 3 for more than like 2 seconds?
Yeah, it didn't take too long to get tired of that.
Yeah. Agreed.
I was never, it's one of those things where it's like, oh, look, I can kill you with one shot and you can't even touch me. Or the other way around, or really just ridiculous. And I was not interested in that's one of my favorite things going from Diablo 2 to Diablo 3 was no more hostile button.
Yeah, we have Max Schaefer to blame for that still.
Yeah, I always hated that. I wanted to play. Going back to the Air Warrior original game that I played, there was a lot of skill involved with killing somebody else. I spent like a month just to get up in the air, only to stall and crash when I first saw somebody. So there was some skill involved, and it felt like the PvP is just like click and dead. It's not really very skillful.
Yeah, of course the skill is getting the gear and the build to make it work in the first place, but obviously not exactly balanced for anything.
Yeah, I think that's mostly skill in looking up what works best and then just doing it to somebody. And in practice, it was doing it to people that were not ready for it.
I think at this point it's probably a detriment to my Diablo 3 experience that I was able to play the PvP demo at BlizzCon in 2010, because it was so awesome and so fun, as we've mentioned many times on the podcast, that you just, ever since, like, is this ever going to get in the game? I pitched it directly to Blizzard and people a number of times, the whole, just make it like an arcade brawler. Make it with pre-made characters, so everybody can only pick from the ones that are there, and that way you can actually balance it, instead of everyone's own characters, which is impossible to ever balance. And they're just like, well, it wouldn't be the same game, and we can't be bothered. And then they insist that it's not because they wanted to make HOTS the PvP Diablo 3 game.
Is that what they had at the demos at BlizzCon? They had preset characters?
Well, the game didn't exist yet, so there wasn't time to make your own character or import it or anything. But yeah, they had preset max level characters with they had the builds and the gear was all locked in. You couldn't switch anything around, and you didn't have time anyway. You were just fighting in the arena.
Yeah.
But it was just so fun. I mean, all the characters were fairly well balanced, and of course we had no one to play the game yet. It was before the beta or anything in 2010. 2011, the beta was ongoing, so people actually knew how to play. But of course, the beta was level 13 max, so you're playing level 60 characters in the demo with lots of skills you've never seen before. But it was just initially it was in 2010. It was not team based. No, I'm sorry, it was team based, but it went rounds. So it was 3-on-3, I believe, and when all three people from one team died, that round was over, and then you'd all respawn and start a new round. Which occasionally was very interesting if you had one person left, and there was like two people on the other team, and they were like trying to both get them, but they were both lower on health than he was or something. But usually it just sucked because if you died early in a round, you just had to sit there and wait until your teammate finally died. And you'd just be like, just die. I want to spend the next round, just die. We only got 10 more minutes on this demo, But then the next year they made it a little better modification where it was team-based but total kills. So each time you died, you respawned immediately, and it just gave the other team another point. Yeah. So a little more fast-paced that way, but...
Yeah, and you don't have that penalty, the death penalty, Oh, I died, now I got to sit here and watch and wait.
Yeah, but of course, if you had someone that sucked on your team, they could die 50 times in 5 minutes, and your team was going to lose, So.
Yeah, good point.
But yeah, I mean, it was just really fun to play and bounce around with, and I think it would have been really cool if they had pre-made characters you could pick from now, and then it would be about skill and strategy instead of just who has the best gear, which is what PvP always is in Diablo 2 and will always be in Diablo 3 with the current system.
Well, with the power now, it's just ridiculous. I think I did test it last year with a heal monk to see if somebody could kill me there, and they really couldn't do it if I didn't want them to. But when you choose other classes now, it is just instantly so much damage. It's just unreal what happens.
Yeah, and they never even tried to balance it for brawling. They just put your characters in there and say, "What the hell?"
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't think it even.
There's no point.
Yeah, it should just. It doesn't even. I couldn't even find them when we went to try to do it because we thought it would be fun. Nobody even knew where it was, where you went to go. I think they moved them somewhere.
Well, I was clicked that by accident because I'm always annoyed when there's NPCs in town that have little things over their heads, and obviously they, Tyrael and the other guys all reset every new game.
Mm-hmm.
And goddamn Auric with the same 3 dialogues. And the NPC brawler guy always resets. And occasionally I'll click on him just to get his first 2 explanatory dialogues out of the way. And then the third one, you click it, and it takes you right into the arena. And once in a while I'll do that by accident. I'll be like, oh, goddamn it, and you got to wait for the level to load. But yeah, brawling is pointless, and no one cares but me. Because only people who played the demo at 2010 or 2011 still think how cool PvP could be in the game. Unfortunately, that doesn't appear to include anybody on the current Diablo 3 development squad, so...
I guess the first hit was free, and then they had nothing left after that.
And then there was no more to be had. So what do you guys think about set dungeons? That's been obviously kind of I won't say it's a controversial topic because everyone hates them, but do either of you, have you played them? Do you like them? Do you wish they were better? Do you want them out of the game entirely? What do you think, Captain Goldfish?
I have played them all. I've got my wings.
So you actually did all 6 classes through all 4 dungeons each?
I did. Yes. Like I said, I've got all the classes. I had most of the stuff ready, and I started with the monk. I did 2 of them by myself, which was a pain, and then 2 more I tried to finish, and I had decided that I'm just not going to be able to do this whole thing. And then I realized somebody asked me for help in one of theirs, and that's when I first realized you could have 2 people in the set dungeon. Which
pretty well defeats the entire purpose, doesn't it?
It does, but it made it actually kind of fun. It was a fun challenge for a couple people. It is just pointless for one person and no fun. With 2 people, you can kind of make it like a shared goal where you have a little bit more invested in it. It becomes more exciting. I like playing with other people, and it was way easier. Some of them were ridiculously easy with 2 people, but others were still pretty hard. Other than that, I don't see the point of them. Other than I don't have to do them anymore because I've done them once, and it's not something you'd ever go back to.
Yeah, I was going to say, once you got the wings, will you ever play one again?
I have, because I've gone in there and helped other people once in a while, but most people don't even want to do them, so it's not a big problem for me.
Well, that's been a running joke on the podcast for weeks, that people were actually switching to hardcore or softcore just to get the third conquest of Avarice or Avarita, just to avoid having to do set dungeons instead.
Yeah.
And that's only, 8 set dungeons, I think? 2 classes, you have to do 2 classes, all 4 of them, right?
Yeah.
To get the conquest?
Yeah.
And you did all 24.
Yeah, it ended up being a 4th conquest for me, because I did the other 3 first. And then that one I just happened to get because I spent, I think it was a long weekend, maybe a week, just dedicated to doing those. And when a friend of mine was on, we would do them together.
And are you generally a completionist? Do you do every accomplished achievement, or is it just you just want to do them for the wings?
I just wanted to do them for the wings and to kind of get the accomplishment. I'm a little bit of an achievement guy, but it mostly comes into right now. It's the last couple of weeks of the season. I'm starting to get bored, so I start to go around and look for a few books that I didn't find. That kind of thing.
Are you just pissed that they don't have an in-game lobby where you could stand around with your wings and make everyone else feel jealous?
I don't really like them that much. I don't like the hard to get ones or the big green ones that go back and forth. I kind of like the ones that are stationary. So, but yeah.
It doesn't matter if you like them. It matters if it makes other people feel bad to know that you have them and they don't.
Yeah, if I'm in a game with...
This is the internet, man. It's all about pissing other people off with your achievements.
If I'm in a game with people that I haven't met before, I might put them on. That might happen.
And is there taunting involved?
No, I usually just put them back off. Nobody comments anymore.
Okay, you're a much better person than I would be. So, Mel, is it Mel? It's Mel.
Mel.
Can you relate to this, or is he insane?
Well, 24 of them is probably bordering on some kind of psychosis. However, I did...
But there's green wings, man.
Well, I'm not in it for the cosmetics, but I will say this. I got the Witch Doctor tabard or pennant, and I flaunt that every chance I get I can. It's a pretty sweet ride.
And what did that require to earn?
Well, you have to do all 4 of the set dungeons for your class. So I did the achievement for the season journey that you do 8 set dungeons. So I did the 4 for the Crusader and the 4 for the Witch Doctor. And 3 of the Witch Doctors are really easy. However, one is the Jade Harvester one is maddening. I was ready to pick my computer up and throw it out the window.
Is it maddening solo and effortless with another person, or did you do them all solo?
I did them all solo. It was sort of something I would do when I got tired of grinding keys or doing GRs. I would just, I'll just try a set dungeon now. And the problem with the Jade Harvester set dungeon is that they have these, I think they're in Act 2, the Serpent Men that go invisible. And when they go invisible, they stop taking damage and they heal up. And they don't show up on the map in the set dungeon. And you have to clear out the entire dungeon. And it is a huge map. So you sort of do your route to go all the way to the very end, and then you find out you're short 2 guys. And now you have maybe a minute left, and you have to cover the rest of the dungeon. You have to go all the way back down and hope that you find the 2 guys that are invisible. And that was maddening.
How many tries did it take you?
I probably worked on that for 2 hours.
Like 4.5 minutes a try, so...
Yeah, it was... I was so mad at Blizzard. I was so mad.
Did that one annoy you, Captain Goldfish?
They all did.
Or did you just have 5 other guys in the dungeon with you, and you did it in 7 seconds?
No, they all did. And every once in a while I have another guy with me, and I'd say I did probably 2/3 of them with another person, and about 1/3 of them solo. But those are the ones that you're doing all the objectives. You're going through and then you find that there was one that ran into a corner somewhere, and so you fail because you can't get 4 or 5 screens back in 5 seconds. So those are the ones where another guy coming behind you and just making sure everything's dead that you pass. It really made it way better. Because those just seemed unfair. They just seemed too random.
Yeah, because the other 3 Witch Doctor ones were really easy, like the Arakir one, the spider set. The toad just had to lick a bunch of guys. So you would run through, drop your toad down, it would hit somebody, you move on to the next pack, and you'd finish that with like 2.5 minutes left. Same with the Zuni Masa, you just don't get hit and let your pets do all the killing. Well, if you played Witch Doctor for a while, that's easy. Then you go into the Jade Harvester, and it's like this wild swing over to the other side. It's like, yeah, okay, you had it really easy, now you've got it really hard. There was no kind of in-between with the set dungeons there.
You also did them with the Crusader, you said?
Yeah, I have a...
How did those 4 fare?
Those ones were a little more interesting. Because I played Witch Doctor a ton, I had really good Witch Doctor gear. I like to gear up alts, so I had some good Crusader gear, but I didn't have, really optimal stuff. So some of the stuff was really easy to do. Like 2 of the dungeons were really easy, but then there were 2 that were. I feel like if I'd had better gear, I probably would have had an easier time. Ultimately, I went online and watched a video and got the set they were using, and then worked my way through it that way. And those were not on the level of Jade Harvester, but those ones took a while as well.
Did any stand out in your memory as especially awful, Captain Goldfish?
Yeah, is it the Rakers Barb one? Or no, let's see. The Tacit of the Waste. That one was ridiculous because you couldn't get hit by a physical attack, and you had to rend. I don't know, whatever random 19 enemies. So you ground stomp and suck them all in, then rend them, and then not get hit, and then whirlwind out of there, and it was just ridiculous.
Oh man, that one sounds brutal.
Yeah, and well, the worst part was, they everything attacked fairly slow, but as you're running, they might just wing you off there might be one around the corner, you just run in as their really slow lumbering attack just happens to get you, and it's just ridiculous. It was really awful.
The one we've had a lot of conversation about on the show before, because we had a number of Demon Hunter players, was how annoying the Shadow Mantle one was. You have to hit everything with Impale, and these chains of Impale, and if you miss a single shot, you're screwed.
Yeah, I mean, really...
I don't see how 2 players would help you a whole lot with that one either.
Well, they help you is that you can just keep running. You just keep running. You just leave stuff behind you, and you just go to the next one, just keep impaling. You impale something, and you run. You impale the next one. Then...
But Impale... one-shots every trash mob anyway, though. So
well, not when you. I lowered everything, so it wasn't that insane. But yeah, it was really annoying because you'd hit the same one twice. There'd be a group of them, and
you're screwed.
Yeah, and then just both go out. There were so many of them that had some just awful mechanic to them. But I haven't bothered doing any alts this season, so I've only done the Demon Hunter ones, and 2 of them were super easy, and one of them took 3 tries, and then I've just given up on Shadow's Mantle. I don't care. I'm not doing them. I don't need to do them. I don't care.
Yeah, I'll be honest.
I got 2 conquests, and that got me my extra inventory tab, and that was the end of my worries.
Yeah, I'll be honest. The show where you talked about the Demon Hunter set dungeons was the reason I made a Crusader this season.
You're like, hell with this.
Yeah. I had a Demon Hunter lined up ready to go, and all of a sudden I went, maybe I'm going to rethink this plan.
Yeah, the multi-shot one is horrible, too, now that I remember. So 2 of them were pretty terrible.
I don't remember the multi-shot one.
Multi-shot one is in one of the Pandemonium Fortress levels, and all it has is little spiders, and you've got to get 5 different bunches of spiders, at least 20 in one shot.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It was kind of like the shadow, the bubble, the time bubble one for the wizard, where you had to get a certain amount of things in each time bubble, and you couldn't get the same monster twice. So if you got 19 out of the 20, and then you got a little better position and got all 20, it wouldn't count because you'd already gotten them once. That was one of the main fixes in the patch notes for the PTR. They immediately said for a couple of dungeons, monsters will still count if you get them a second time with the same skill or whatever.
Yeah, I had a lot of problem with the Uliana's set for the monk, which is what I played last season almost constantly. So I had a great monk to do it, and it was just, you would get, 17 out of 18 or whatever. You would be missing it by one, and they were just spread out. You had to cycle them and like drag them around. It just they all seem pointless. The whole thing seems pointless. I did them all, but I don't think anybody should have to do that.
And yet you did. But if they want the green wings, they have to do it.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it all until I think that's proven. I'm going to do it if they set it out. But how far do they want to push me?
They can't make you like it though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. It's just interesting. Probably if I was like 16 when the game was out now, I would do them all just to do them all. Like I was really dogged and like I had to do like every single mission and find every Easter egg and stuff in games when I was younger. And as you get older, you're just like, I'm just gonna do the fun parts. I don't care about the rest.
Yeah, I do. I do my initial pass through the game, see all the little nooks and crannies, and then after that, I just sprint straight to the objective. And
it is fun to explore sometimes when there's. I much prefer the game today with bounties and stuff. You actually have to go to more than one area. You don't just go to the one good area 1,000 times in a row, which of course was what we did in Diablo 2. Is people's rose-colored glasses often seem to forget, but it's more fun to do a variety of stuff. But you need to have reasonable rewards for doing it. I don't want to just go endlessly through all this bullshit just to get like one more achievement point. But there are people who love that. There's people who will run through the same area 100 times till they finally get that one last lore book, to get all the lore completionists or something.
They might as well just put a button in the game and just keep clicking this button until randomly one day your thing will show up with those books, because I've never seen...
Well, that's like half the game, dude.
Sure, but half of it, the gear stuff comes along a lot more frequently than those books from what I've seen.
Yeah, I remember there was an achievement in the past where you had to get the chicken level, that that one part in the Desolate Wastes in Act 2, you find that one little pedestal.
Yeah.
And like every 50th time you get like the magic chicken level, and people just do that level for like hours, just running it over and over again, hoping to get the one spawn that had that little thing, and then trying to get the one that took them to the chicken level, which was like, I'm like, what is this doing for you? You're going to get one more achievement. And they were like, I have to have it.
It had 7 random, it was like the roulette wheel, I think it was called. Wheel of Fortune, and that thing would spawn at random, and then it would be one of 7 outcomes, I think, or 9 outcomes. And if you wanted
it seemed like
you had
it was
to get
less common than the other ones. Too.
Yeah. There was one that I spent after I got tired of grinding at Paragon back when it capped at 100. I made a monk and was just running through Act 2 trying to get that achievement. So I'm very well aware of that particular setup.
But you were driven to do it because you wanted the achievement.
Well,
even though there's no real reward for that.
I wanted to play Diablo, but I was just sick to death of doing the Al Kaiser run or Act 1 runs, and I just thought, well, I got to do something different. And I only had like a level 20 monk, so I thought, oh, okay, I can run around here. If this is an achievement where I just have to find something, level 20, I could kind of one-shot everything and just run around and see if I can get this done. And one afternoon when I was bored, I just kept zoning in and logging out and zoning back in. And Blizzard must have just been really angry with me with the server load I put on them that day.
Yeah, they'll ban you for a bot or next thing you know.
Yeah.
So last question for you guys. Have you looked at the PTR for the next patch? Are you excited about the new season? Are there any changes that's really going to impact how you play?
I've looked at all the notes. I haven't gone on it yet because I've been busy with work and a few other things. But this seems to be the patch where they just sort of fine-tune everybody's stuff. And it'll be interesting. The season set for Witch Doctor now is Zunimasa's, and they've made it so you can take more damage with it. And the gem has given the pets the ability to take more damage. And I enjoy pet builds, so I'm kind of keen to try it out and see what happens.
It looks like no new sets, no big changes to how item sets work. Everything's kind of fine-tuning, like you say. They did make some pretty big changes to legendary gems, though.
Yes, they did.
We had a big discussion about that a couple podcasts ago. Obviously, Tegooks was a big change.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, some classes use it, but are there any legendary gems that are going to really change your builds?
Well, like I said, the pet one, the Enforcer, because I like to play pets, that'll do.
Makes the pets damn near unkillable, right? 90% damage buff now or something?
Yeah, because the main Witch Doctor build for pushing Greater Rifts is basically a pet build. And once you start hitting like the high-level GRs, your pets just get wiped out. And because there's a long cooldown on Gargantuans, which is the one that does the bulk of your damage, if you die and your Gargantuans are on cooldown and you come back in and you have nothing, you might as well just start over because you're not gonna make it. And then it's not hard for your pets to get absolutely wiped out.
So there's a Gargantuan cooldown, you're saying?
Yeah, I think it's a minute.
It's a Gargantuan cooldown.
Yeah. It is huge.
Yes, that's what she said.
I was a little excited about the Bane of the Powerful because it has some elite damage reduction on it as well.
Yeah.
And now that we're leveling them up to such high numbers, it actually lasts for long enough to... Because, the first season or so, to get things up to 25 or 30 was impressive. And that was probably only, 20 seconds or whatever. But I thought there's a couple of them that seem pretty interesting. And for me, I started playing, this is the first season I played Crusader, and I really wanted to play Invoker, but it just wasn't good for groups, and it wasn't the best for solo either. But now I got on the PTR to do an Invoker, and now if you have the hack weapon, it changes everything. So it's way stronger now. That weapon applies thorns with each hit, and it didn't work the same way this last season. Now they've changed how it works, and it really is quite amazing.
Yeah, I've not tried that set at all. I was never a big... I used to play a little bit of Paladin with Thorns, and obviously we had, in Diablo 2, we had Paladins with Thorns, and you had Iron Maiden Witch Doctors. Blood Golem you could also use in a certain, combination of that and stuff. And the whole standing, it's a very different build. In theory, you're standing around trying to get hit by things so they can die because they hit you, which is sort of the exact opposite of every other build in Diablo 3 at this point.
Yeah, well, in Diablo 2, I love playing the Sorceress and the Necromancer, which are way different than this. So this is it, and it does kind of take me back to when Diablo 3, my first, high level 70 character that I could do, that I could get into Inferno was a barb that was kind of just a tank barb, and then I had my friends along to help with the DPS. And this kind of takes me back to where I was just kind of beating on things. Only this time I'm actually killing things. So it's kind of fun. It's a nice change. I don't know how long it'll last this season, since it really isn't going to be a whole lot different than last season. This season might be like the previous one where I took the last few weeks off.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Yeah, this one might not be the one where I grind out all the 1,000 Paragon levels.
I think it'll be easy to go in. It's like you go in, we know what to do now. I know how to optimize, get to where I want to go, and then I might just die off. It might just it might be a short season, which isn't necessarily a bad thing for like real life. But
yeah,
it'd be nice. I'm sure I'm going to like it for a little while. I love the beginning of the seasons. It's my favorite part. And at this time, now I'm just like waiting to see if my friends are going to come back for the beginning of the seasons again. So,
yeah, getting that constant improvement. It's really fun to gear up. And then, you first get into T6, and then you first get into T10. You start powering up your gyms and stuff.
Yeah, and the play style is different. Everything slows down. People aren't just going through and just mindlessly destroying everything. People are trying. People are using different builds, and I guess now this season when we get the sets as a gift, it changes that a little bit. But it's fun to go back to level.
Yeah, the first week of the season is probably the most fun to play because not only are you sort of forced to use different gears and builds, but everybody seems to be a little more tolerant during the first 2 weeks as well. After like the second or third week, everyone is expecting you to be super geared and super on top of play styles and builds and all that. Otherwise, forget about it, you're out.
And is that good or bad?
Well, if you're trying to get a group if you're trying to get into a group to do some GRs, just through a public game, it kind of sucks because either they boot you or you sit there and watch people slowly leave, and then you don't play for like half an hour waiting for a group. So
I've kind of gotten out of that. I'm not really expecting to compete in leaderboards anymore. I was, I think it was season 2, I was a top 10 wizard, and in the off season I got the number 1 spot. But that was like the last season that Paragon didn't just go through the roof for people that played all the time. That was, I could be you could still be a decent casual player and get somewhere. Now it seems like I'm 8 or 900 Paragon behind the top guys. So it's way harder to compete. And so I would prefer to play with people that we're just having a fun, good time doing it. We don't have to be in a high grift. If I can do an 80 pretty quickly, then I'm fine. And if they can only do 67 to 70, I'm happy to just hang out with them and power through that stuff.
And are you still that far behind after the big bot ban this week? Or are you now 100 behind?
Yeah, it didn't, I think I moved up like 20 spots. And one of my happiest moments this season might be when I had a bot in my public bounty games, and he was screwing up the bounties. He was collecting the wrong one, and I realized it was a bot because of all the weird things it was doing. And then I came on. I had to go to work, so I came back after work, saw he was on, and I waited for. I'm kind of stalking him, waiting him for to go to the menu and then I join a public game and happen to jump in the same game as him. So as the bot starts to screw up the bounty again, I told everybody to cancel, and then I started up an 80 grift. And bots love to grift, and so he went right in, and that was the last of him. He lasted about a minute, and he was a full Invoker's Crusader with level 70 gems in all of his armor too, so it was a big loss for that.
And this is hardcore, so it actually matters.
Yeah. He was gone. So that was a nice. It's a. I don't know if they fixed that on their bot software, but if they're in public grifts, that's one way to get rid of them. Just start up a grift and they'll go in there. So that was one of my favorite moments of the season. But I think, and I've been keeping track of his account, and he got banned as well. So.
Yeah, so have you been stalking him ever since?
Yeah, I was, because, well, he never came back. I think that was because that was his only character that was alive, and I think it might have been a big blow to his. I mean, he had played. I timed it out. It was an average of 19 and a half hours every day for the season. So.
And you said you'd never done PvP in Diablo 3.
That's actually the first. That's the first.
That was the best PvP ever in Diablo 3.
Yeah, that was it. My first and probably. If I see another one, I'm looking for now. When I join a public bounty, I'm looking to see if I see any of the telltale signs, but no luck.
How does Blizzard feel about vigilante justice?
Is that that's a Crusader passive, right?
I didn't get any banner reward or anything.
No.
You got the green wings though.
I do. I was wearing them.
There you go. See, you're allowed to perform acts of vigilante justice if you have on the green wings.
Yeah, it was very satisfying.
Okay, so any final thoughts, guys? We got about 2 weeks? We got less than 2 weeks left. 11 days left in the season. Are you going to make any last GR pushes or something? And are you going to play in between or wait for season? We got a 2-week layover here. Starts April 29th before we get the next season going up. When will you next play more than 2 hours in a day? Will that be April 29th?
I will probably be playing a lot anyway. But
are you pushing GRs? Trying to get GR 100 here or what?
I don't think I'm going to. It's not as much fun It's a little stressful. I don't know if I really enjoy that part of it anymore. I might do an 80, 82, 83. We'll see. It seems crazy that that's not pushing it too hard.
I remember when like 22 was high, like in season 1.
Yeah.
Trying to get that gym to 25, I was like, oh man, I got to push this, and now it's like, yeah. So what are your end of the season plans there, Mel?
Well, I guess I don't know what you'd call it. I'm trying to ride the coattails of the leaderboard. I'm trying to sort of sneak in at like 950 or 960. So that's about, right now, that's a level GR 76. So I figure if I could do a 76 or a 77 by the end of the season, I'll be happy, because there's no way I'm going to get even in the top 100. So I still like to play when I got a few hours here and there, and I got some pretty good gear, so I think I could probably do it.
It's about how they get that guy lured your bot into a GR one time and killed off your whole account.
That's why I went to softcore.
Yeah. It was no point in going back there. You'd been beaten.
Yeah.
So season 6 plans? Are you eager? Are you waiting? Will there ever be a point when you're tired of new seasons? That's everyone's favorite part of the season, I guess, is the new season.
If they have another season like the one coming up, like if season 7 is like season 6, we're on 6, right?
Yeah, the next one coming up is going to be 6.
Season 7 is like season 6, where there's really just minor tuning, then that's where my interest will start to wane. I think I like to get I like to find the new pieces of gear and try out new builds, and if they just kind of throw in a bracer here or a belt there for the next couple of seasons and, tweak damage numbers, I'll probably play a lot less.
Okay, final question. Are you guys expecting another Diablo 3 expansion, or are we going to get Diablo 4 announcement in 2 years and nothing before then? Goldfish.
I think there's going to be another expansion.
So, soon? I mean, like, they're not going to wait and announce it at BlizzCon, probably, right? They would announce it before then, or we got 7 months till BlizzCon?
I don't know. I mean, they've given us so much. I feel like we kind of got, like, the expansion stuff already. So,
But you still think we'll get a whole other expansion on top of all the content?
No, I might be talking myself out of it. Maybe we're not getting this expansion. I think they gave us too much already.
Maybe that's why there's so little content in next season's patch. They're really working on content for the expansion.
It could
now.
be, and then they'll poke us all up to 80, and they'll try to fix a bunch of stuff that they broke. Because I really hope that we don't just keep going up like 10 glyphs each time, because just the amount of time it takes you to level the gems is ridiculous now. I mean,
but you can do them 4 times in each rift now.
Yeah, and I've got a ton of gold. I would rather be, like, have 50 be worth what 100 is now. I'd just rather have it less jumps. It takes a lot of work.
I was holding out hope that they would have the an interface for your gems where you just level one gem and then you spread it amongst characters. And then they introduced the level a gem up and then put it in the cube and use it to augment your gear, and that's when a little part of me died that day.
That dream went away.
Yeah.
I guess that is a cool way to, obviously it's another carrot on the stick, right, to give you, or I guess it's the honey on the stick to make, here's how you should keep doing GRs forever, even after you've got all your gems to their highest level you can ever get them. Now you've got to do 7 or 13 or 15 more of those just to get your stupid gear all leveled up.
Yeah. If I died now, it would be a huge. I don't even want to think about it. I'm not gonna. This is my first season. I haven't died yet, so.
You just jinxed it now.
Yeah, we used to lose 3 legendary gems. Now you basically lose 20 if you die.
Yeah.
Or 15 or something, depending on how much gear you've done, obviously.
And I've leveled up another 7 or 8 just in case something happens. I could just quickly shoot them into a bunch of other stuff, but I don't even like to think about that. That would probably, I wouldn't rebuild them. I'd play somebody else.
Like that time when that bot lured you into a GR. Oh, wait, that was someone else.
Yeah.
So what do you think about the expansion, Mel? Last question.
I honestly think we're getting a D4. I think at this point they've used up what would have been an expansion, and I think they are going to just kind of keep status quo, and I think probably later this year or maybe early next year we'll get a D4 announcement.
And then 5 years after that, we'll see the actual game?
Yeah, I figure BlizzCon 2029, I'm going to book my tickets now so I can get a new security fob and get the new demo.
Well, you go over 20 years, right? So
Yeah.
Isn't like when Vulcans have like mate or something?
Yeah, I guess I'm a
every
sub race. Instead of mating, I go and hope for a PvP demo of Diablo 3.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people at BlizzCon who do things instead of mating. Ooh, hey now.
Showering is not one of them, though.
No.
This is not Magic the Gathering, man. Come on. Anyway, thanks for your time, guys. You've been listening to the Diablo 3 podcast, and you've heard a couple of first-time guests here. Mel, whose name I'll forget for the next 6 months every time he's on the show. And Captain Goldfish, who I cannot forget because it says that right in his Skype avatar, and it's even a picture of a goldfish.
That's what it's there for.
Like a Crusader goldfish.
Mm-hmm.
That makes it all very easy. Anyway, you've been listening to the Diablo 3 podcast, and we'll probably be back in a couple of weeks with possibly some older guests or possibly some newer guests. No show next week because I have visitors coming from out of town, and then I'll be very busy over the summer, but hopefully we can get something around the time the season ends. And thanks for listening, guys, and this is the part of the show. I'm pretty sure you guys both auditioned and wanted to be on the show just so you could say...
Moo.
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 So stupid. It never gets old, though, does it? So stupid. At least you both played Diablo 2, so you know what we're doing.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so welcome to the Diablo 3 podcast. This is Flux. We're doing another audition with a first-time guest. I am on the phone with Jonathan, but we're calling him a cool name on the internet, which is...
Cinful.
And you spell that with a K, right?
Well, Cynful, yeah.
It's not kinful, it's sinful.
Sinful, yeah.
And as I asked you a minute ago, have you done the cinnamon challenge? The sinful, doesn't make any sense, does it?
Not.
And you have been playing, you didn't play Diablo 1 or 2 much, but you mostly got in on Diablo 3?
Yeah, mostly in Diablo 3. I've been playing since original vanilla.
Is that because you were in like elementary school when Diablo 1 came out?
Well, the funny thing is I actually did play Diablo 1 a little bit. I just never really got into playing Diablo 2, so yeah.
You mostly played a demon hunter and a monk?
Yes.
Would you care to elaborate upon that answer?
Yes. Well, started off as Demon Hunter in vanilla, switched over to Monk when playing Demon Hunter was mostly like face tanking. And then once Inferno got fixed, I finally went back to playing Demon Hunter and been kind of playing that ever since.
And as you've heard from our past podcasts, we hardly ever talk about Demon Hunters on the show. No one really plays them much out of our current guests, so it'll be nice to fill that void.
Absolutely. Well, plenty of Demon Hunters and Wizards, of course.
And you played lots of Demon Hunter. Can you explain the male Demon Hunter? Is there any explanation for the male Demon Hunter?
There is none, because everybody loves the female Demon Hunter. You want to be different, maybe?
Why are his legs so long?
Well, I'm still wondering why when you do Vengeance on a female Demon Hunter, it makes it look like a male Demon Hunter. I still don't understand that one.
Because women do revenge, they don't do vengeance.
Oh, that's good. That's a good one.
You did mention, speaking of vengeance, is it annoying to you this season that every single Demon Hunter has a red glow around them at all times?
Yeah, I mean, because
now fanaticism is forever, and everybody uses Seethe, so...
Well, you can't actually see your character at all, so you're pretty much running Perma-Vengeance. I mean, every Demon Hunter should be running Perma-Vengeance, so... Yeah,
and you're always, everyone uses Seethe unless you are a Marauder. You can actually... One benefit of playing Marauders is you don't actually need that much hatred generation, so you can just use the one that gives you the big defensive buff directly, and you don't need to use anything in your cube to enable... Everyone uses the helm, that enables you to get both effects at once, at least in Hardcore. That's what everybody uses. So you can actually be a blue-colored Demon Hunter with Marauders.
So if you want to transmog your Vengeance Demon Hunter, you can just wear the helm, and so you can go blue. Or you can go Shadow Mantle, and you can kind of play around with the different colors.
As you were mentioning earlier about wanting different transmogs and different looks.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, well, if you're a Demon Hunter, that's great, except that everybody looks exactly the same now because Vengeance takes priority over it. It's like back when WOTB was the only Barbarian skill. It's all Perma Wrath the Berserker.
Right.
Hey, you always look like you're Super Saiyan, no matter what you're doing with your Barbarian. So.
Or unless when you're playing like the spin to win and you can never see your Barbarian because he was always spinning, so...
And that's also the problem with Marauders. So you're always using strafe anyway. So you're always kind of a black outline. So it's almost irrelevant what you're wearing or doing. I guess you can see it when you're standing in town.
Well, I'm just looking forward to seeing a lot more of the transmogs coming into the game. I think could be a really good addition, even if we have the perma vengeance issue. I think it's going to be really awesome to see just more cosmetic stuff coming in.
Yes, we can all make our little Barbies look even prettier than before.
Absolutely.
Do you want to comb their little glossy manes?
Well, we're going to have the rainbow portraits next, so that's
Actually, I kind of like the rainbow portrait.
It actually is nice.
I'm ashamed to admit it, but it looks awesome. It looks like the cover of it. It looks like a box of Lucky Charms.
Well, they have a lot of people are going to be farming their staff back from the early vanilla days because I don't know if anybody's ever really been to Whimsyshire. We've been to Whimsydale since then, but I mean, how many people have actually done the staff quest?
No one.
Well, isn't that,
I even forgot. I'm not even sure how to do it anymore. It's been so long.
Isn't that the requirement? Because that's going to drop only in Whimsyshire. I think it's not a drop in Whimsydale, which is.
I'm pretty sure they took out a couple of the materials too. It used to be like 6 materials, and now it's only like 4, like the same as the console. It's been so long, I don't even have to go research that.
Well, one of the pieces is actually really bugged, and I was trying to do some research on it, and Blue Post were actually saying, yeah, like, we can confirm it still drops, but it is really rare, and some people were kind of like theory crafting. They're like, hey, I put on some Magic Find gear, and then like 2 runs later I found it, and I'm like, whatever, this is like such a conspiracy theory. And I kid you not, like I was doing run after run to try to get the piece to drop. I put on Magic Find gear. I think I had maybe around 80 or so, and then boom, it dropped. I was like, wow. So I'm going to say it wasn't a myth.
Confirmation bias.
That's right. I'm just going to say
that one's Chiltara, right? In Act 3.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, no, it was I'm trying to think. It was the Ice Caves.
Yeah. That's Chiltara is what they did. The Lacuni whatever.
Yeah, in the ice cavern. Yeah, that was the one that I couldn't get to drop. The other pieces really actually weren't that hard. I think I did it in like less than 2 hours or something like that.
It's like before you had set dungeons, they had something else that was frustrating and totally random and shouldn't have been in the game.
Well, Whimsyshire was like the best place to farm legendaries for a while back in the day.
Way back in the day.
Exactly. Yeah.
Have you given up on expecting a second expansion?
I think so. Well, I think it would depend on their timeline for when they think that they might have a Diablo 4. And we all know how Blizzard is about, deadlines. But an internal deadline as far as how long they think it's going to take them to make Diablo 4, it might make sense for them to have another expansion to keep the interest going in Diablo, or at least keeping it relevant. That might actually be in their benefit. But at this point, I think they're going to make an announcement of a Diablo 4 before another expansion, maybe.
Well, once they announce D4, they're not going to do another expansion. I mean, I can't imagine them, here, play this in the meantime. And there's been so much free content in the patches. I mean, people often, obviously things like set dungeons and Kanai's Cube seem like, kind of new. And, we had whole new levels the last couple of patches.
Right.
Which makes it seems like the next patch and the next season would have been like a big deal. That was like your average Diablo 2 patch,
Right.
Not adding any new content, just a few new items and some rebalances.
Mm-hmm.
But we've gotten spoiled by having so much content and a whole new item set and totally redesigned item sets and new builds.
Right.
The past 3-4 patches that now it's like, is patch 6, does the next patch seem kind of like anticlimactic? Or like even going to bother playing that much? Or
I think, the problem still is that there isn't enough depth to the game. I mean, from a balance perspective, them focusing on sets probably makes the most sense, but we have all these unique items in the game, and I think it was Oz that said, this is an items-based game, and he's absolutely right. We have all these cool items in game, and yet we're so focused on these sets. And the Legacy of Nightmares set probably is going to help with that to some extent, but obviously they're putting their energy into the sets. And there just needs to be more depth because, as you said, the next patch coming up, it's mostly just changes in damage numbers and stuff like that. We have some changes to gems, but it's really nothing significant. I would love to see them focus more on these individual sets and allow us to kind of create our own sets. And the other thing is, for me, the transmog system. I thought that was probably one of the better things to be brought to Diablo 3, and then we haven't really seen a whole lot from it. And in a game like this, I think that it would probably do really well, whether they give us periodic stuff or have content available through DLC or something like that.
Well, there are a bunch of new transmogs in the new patch.
Yeah.
That's the first time they've really done that, adding just, appearance changes that aren't tied to an actual item you're using.
Which is perfect. I mean, that's perfect, because then we can have a little bit more kind of diversity.
You can dress up Barbie, yeah. Do you like to dress up your dollies?
Well, I like to look a little bit different than everyone else when I get into a Rift, so that kind of helps. But, I mean, I think...
Well, you've got 18 set dungeons to go, and you can look special with your green wings.
And that's the funny thing, is that not even all of them, I think, look great, but... I do like some of them, and I have mine now, not my wings, but I have my mastery pennant, and I've worn it here and there, but again, it's something else to do in the game, and I think that's what they need more of. We need more diversity and things to do when we're in there. Right now, it's only about, greater rifts, and that's pretty much it. I mean, if you're about leaderboards, that's great, but if you're not into it, well, what else do you have to do? I mean, what
you can always try to improve your bot until you get banned.
We could play a game of Diablo 3 follower hardcore mode. So I was, playing tonight, and I was trying out some of the different, relics or whatever. And if you do anything else other than your follower won't die, I mean, it's like almost pointless. And I'm thinking, God, thank God the followers don't play hardcore mode with you, so because you'd be done.
You have a new follower pretty often.
Yeah, exactly.
If you kill all three, they start over again, right?
Yeah.
That was a topic on the podcast some time ago. It's like, it's kind of, why even have other, relics? It's like there's only one that's worth using.
Right.
And the other ones don't even really matter. I mean, it's like, okay, I have access to all my skills. Well, the other one sucks, so who cares? or I can cast them. My cooldown is reduced. It's like, okay, well, I guess that's nice.
Well, and that's the thing, is like, as soon as you start getting excited about some kind of damage synergy you could set up with them, like, people online have tons of guides about, how to increase their damage and stuff, but you let them start attacking a mob, and you're like, this damage is pointless. Like, what is the point? Unless they're going to do some kind of CC again, which is minimal. I mean, they're almost like an afterthought, except for the minor buff that they give your actual character. I mean, and that's a shame. I mean, in D2, you guys had much better mercs, didn't you?
Yeah, they were like actually probably pretty much overpowered in Diablo 2, because you could get once they had weapons that added skills.
Right.
You could get like 2 extra auras just on your merc, and it was like double your damage. So. Wow. But you actually had to keep them alive. They weren't immortal, and you had to feed them potions and stuff. So it was like a lot more skill-based. And a lot of them, they were tanks. I mean, every class didn't have 5 different tanks in Diablo 2, so.
Yeah. That's that's kind of a big miss, especially if you're like a solo player, and that goes back to, all the ranting on the forums about, why is this game so oriented towards group play, and it seems to be like a common thread where, I mean, you remember back in the early Inferno days, everybody went solo because that was the easier road to progression. And then to get everybody to play group, that's when they started throwing these huge incentivizes at us to get everybody to play together. And then they kind of haven't moved away from that. So for me, like, I enjoy playing solo a bit more. And I mean, it sucks because you feel like you have a handicap, but I don't think the gap should be as large for group versus single.
Well, they have toned down the EXP buff a little bit. I mean, it was like 30-1, last season,
right.
And now it's like 5-1. So it's not as ridiculously OP, but as people have gotten into higher and higher greater rifts, that makes a big difference. I mean, people can speedrun 90s now, so it's like, no one's speedrunning 90s been solo, and it's just, you can get so much higher experience for higher rifts, and of course next season that's a big change. They're going to lower the EXP and lower the damage above 70, I guess.
Right. So
they're definitely trying to equalize that. One of the big advantages now of multiplayer is you can play a lot higher, greater Rift, and that's not going to be so much the case, at least in terms of getting more experience for them.
Mm-hmm.
What's your Paragon this season?
I'm coming up on about 600.
Noob.
Yeah.
I thought you mean 1,600, right?
Ah. Well, when I'm done tinkering with my bot,
Is this the highest you've been in a season?
Yeah, about that. I mean, because by the time I get home from work...
Because power creep, that's why.
Well, it's like, if I played the most efficient use of my time, yeah, I think, like, if I was doing tons of greater rips, if I was in constant group play, I mean, yeah, my Paragons would be a lot higher, but... like, I just can't play the game like that. There are days where I'm going to play efficient, and then there's days where I just kind of want to, like, goof around and play at my own pace, and I get home from work, and I'm playing, and, everybody starts calling you, so you're on the phone, you're playing, or you're stopping for 15 minutes to talk or whatever. I mean, the Paragon to me, it's there's no depth to the customization outside of, like, at 600, you almost have all the major important points. After that, it's all about the main stat, and being high Paragon helps, but I don't see a rush for it.
Well, if you're like 2,000, that's when people get to the really high GRs because you're adding so many more main stats.
Right. What do you run on seasons usually? Paragon.
The most I've been is this season. I think I'm about 730.
Right.
And I really haven't played in like 3 weeks, so I doubt I'll be any higher than I am. I have like no time to play the next week and a half.
Well, when you get on, do you feel like you have to play efficiently, or does it really not?
I mostly play solo.
Yeah.
I play some party. I mean, I play only hardcore since Reaper of Souls came out, so it's occasionally slower, but I mean, I play somewhere. We were doing a bunch of speed runs of like 50 and 55, like a month ago. And it's crazy when you start doing, as opposed to doing solo, I was doing solo 55 and 60s pretty easily, and then you play, you do like 5 games in a row of 4 players in GR50, and it's like, yeah, I just got 5 times the experience of my last hour solo.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just, I think it's a crappy play experience for the most part in multiplayer. I mean, 2 people if you're using like strategy is kind of cool, but you get to 4, and if everybody's a damage character, you're just like charging through, and you barely even get to shoot at stuff. Things just die so quickly. It feels ridiculous. It's just this super high speed slaughter.
Right. And not only that, the particle effects and everything on top of it. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't see what you're doing. It's just a pain. I end up just like I'll go myself into some side room sometimes just to be able to kill stuff and actually see it. It's like, oh, it takes longer to kill them. At least I can see what I'm doing. Yeah, I don't find I would find softcore really boring if I was just doing softcore and doing 4-player games all the time and just speed running and whatever the current build is just to get more experience.
Well, and I tried hardcore out, back in the vanilla days, and it was actually a lot of fun. I mean, you definitely felt like you had to play your character differently, which I appreciated. And then I kind of broke the cardinal rule of playing hardcore, which is don't play when you're tired. And I got home from work, started.
Yeah, we all do that.
Yeah. I started.
We call it drunk core usually.
Oh, is that what it? Yeah.
I'll be on the clan at night, and if someone's like, "Hey, it's drunk core time," and then like 5 minutes later, some RP. It's gotten so easy now. I mean, compared to how it was, I guess it's kind of actually gotten harder in one way now that you have all your gear augmented.
Right.
Because the only thing that matters is obviously when you lose gear and die. I mean, you can make a new character in 10 minutes, especially with Gem of Ease and stuff now. But for a while, for a few seasons, it was bad when you died because you lost your gear and you lost your 3 best legendary gems usually. Mm-hmm. Now you're losing like 15 legendary gems, effectively, right, if you're really geared up. You got all your gear augmented, you've burned like level 60 or 70 gems and everything, and it's like, okay, all that is now gone. It's like, oh my god, that is really a big loss of the grind time to level up 20 more gems to 60 or something.
I assume on hardcore you still augment with your dex gems. You're not doing vitality or anything, right?
All the ones I've done have been damage gems.
Okay.
Yeah, there's so much damage reduction gear now. I mean, every class. I mean, that's like the biggest change for Demon Hunters in this patch. You can get, you're not even using it all in hardcore, but I mean, currently with Taegooks, it's ridiculous. You got like evasive ring, you've got the bracers that give you the big damage buff. There's the belt that gives you, 8% more for every pet you have out.
Oh, Zoe's, yeah.
I mean, you can get so easily. I mean, no one even uses Unity. I mean, Unity was like mandatory,
Yeah.
Double Unity on your follower, like the 3 or 4 previous seasons in hardcore. I mean, every class basically had to do that to play solo.
Yeah.
And nobody does it anymore, because every single class has at least one item that does more than Unity just for free. You just get it in the cube if you need it.
Yeah. That's true.
I mean, it used to be like a challenge to get like 200, 25, 30 million toughness was a lot with a demon hunter, and now you can get like 250 just easily.
Mm-hmm.
Especially once your Taegooks has got 90 stacks up or something. Of course, that may change. Obviously, that's changing next season when Taegooks isn't giving you that huge defensive buff anymore.
Yeah, and this sounds crazy, and this is going back to what you were saying about playing in group play, and it's it's just a mad rush through the content and all these particle effects everywhere, and you can't really actually enjoy the game. The part of the game that I enjoy the most is probably like the first 20 minutes when you're going through and granted, there's nothing spectacular about it, but maybe it's because you can actually slow down and appreciate the game a little bit. Killing mobs and stuff later. It's just particle effects, speed, and yeah, it's fun. But I don't know if it's the game that they initially wanted to make. If you look at even Jay Wilson's his early alpha videos back in the day. I mean, that plays very much like the early
Diablo 1.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely a different type of game. And I don't know if that was their intention, but
well, I mean, Jay Wilson became a curse word, but Wilson, but when in his famous we doubled it quote was referring to doubling the hit points and the difficulty of Inferno, and that was before the game came out, and all the fans thought that was awesome. Like, oh yeah, it'll be finally be a challenge. We want it to be a challenge. We have to really play hard. Diablo 2 was too easy.
Yeah.
And then, of course, everyone got to Inferno and Diablo 3, and we had months and months of how the game is way too hard and it's no fun. So, obviously, what you were just saying, they wanted to make it more of a challenge. You have to actually play strategically and kite and, use your defensive skills and debuff things.
Right.
And the fans are like, yeah, we just want to be godlike and just, slaughter the entire screen with one shot. And that's been the game. That has been a steady progression ever since of the game becoming, making your character feel more powerful all the time.
Wait, you didn't watch it? You didn't watch the video back then, Flux? The how difficult it was?
Yeah, everyone thought it'd be fun. But then once we got the play style, well, that's all tied up in the whole sense of, all the unique items sucked initially.
Yeah.
There were very few individual powers. Set items were crap. All your abilities came from your skills.
Yeah.
And items sucked, and they were super hard to find. People felt forced to play the auction house, etc. So it's really impossible to say if the difficulty was like, D3 vanilla, but you had all the super gear we have now.
Mm-hmm.
But then maybe it would just feel spiky. I mean, that was the big deal forever. The damage was so spiky. You take no damage and then you get one-shotted.
Right.
You either didn't even notice your hit points or you had none. And there was no in between. So, and obviously it's tough to get a balance, but I think obviously the game is vastly easier now. I mean, in terms of everybody's got a death cheating passive or two, and there's lots of gear that death cheats passives, and there's massive toughness buffs, but eventually you get up to GR 95 or 100 or something, and then you can still get one-shotted. So
yeah, it was fun, but the execution was way off. Remember the item level in you got into Inferno and you needed the gear for you had to farm Torment Act 2 in Inferno to pick up to
get the gear for Act 1. Yeah.
So yeah, the execution of it just didn't make sense. Like I could farm Act 1 in Inferno and never have enough gear to really do Act 2. And the only way people were getting through is if they were cheesing content, and enough people started getting through and gear started spreading and whatnot. But even then, it wasn't fully accessible. So, yeah, it was just so poorly done. Maybe if they had an actual beta instead of like a preview. that would have...
Instead of a Skeleton King beta.
Yeah, people were doing naked runs on the Skeleton King and trying to challenge themselves that way. All they needed to do was release Inferno, and people would have had more than enough to do.
Yeah, they probably didn't have the game all finished at that point to even do it, but at least they learned in Reaper of Souls. Had the whole thing in the beta.
Well, it's funny because at all the BlizzCons were quite a few. I remember at least 2 when people asked about Endgame, and Jay Wilson's like, well, we can't really speak to that yet. He goes, it's hard to have endgame before you have game. And I guess they kind of ran out of time with game. And we got what we got for Inferno. And I don't even know if that's where they were going to stop, because people said, well, what happens if we beat Inferno? And Jay Wilson just more or less said, well, if you find it's too easy, I'm sure we'll come up with something else for you, like something even harder.
Yeah, it was obviously not an end game, and their itemization was crap at the start.
Yeah.
It wasn't, every, the best uniques were just, rares. Just rares with gold type.
Yeah. Well,
just stat sticks.
Would you say now, I mean, since you've been doing this since the beta times, from what you saw back then, did you have any idea the game would take the direction that it has?
Become good? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, just how it would come out and have all those major issues. And, Diablo 2, from what I've understood, had a lot of issues, and people compare it to the finished product 10 years later. But, D3 has had a pretty rocky road to get where we are today, even.
They did a lot of reinventing the wheel. Not having anybody, the D3 team not having anybody who'd actually made an ARPG before, in a leadership position was obviously a mistake in retrospect. Obviously, if you took all these guys back in a time machine to 5 years ago, they would make a vastly better game at launch. They just learned so much from working on the current game. And there's guys like Wyatt and, other people, Travis Day and stuff, who've been there the entire time. And they just know what they're doing now better. And they obviously, they've hidden these things at BlizzCon showing all these different ideas they had for the skill system and, hexagonal patterns for it and all this, really complicated things. We had skill points in the game for a long time. There were skill points for, they called passives were called traits, and they were 1 to 5 points in traits, and the whole balancing thing, and just the more levels of complication. And they made a lot of changes that were better. And the basic game, in terms of the way the combat works and the graphics look, and the speed and the flow has always been great. But they didn't make a good game initially balanced with the monster difficulty, and the itemization was just so crappy. Was the biggest problem, I think.
I'm wondering why they took out a lot of the content that they showed early on and then later put it back in, like the Mystic. That was just one example. The Mystic was in, and then they took it out, and now it's back. And
well, they took her out because she didn't do anything. She initially did Charms was one of the things she could do, and then they took Charms out of the game, which could be another example of your previous comment. Yeah. Those have never come back, but Charms were just a little way to add a little more stats. They were just really watered down gem sockets before we had legendary gems. So it's they just didn't do anything, and all the Mystic kind of did was to buff those. So it wasn't until they had the whole transmog and imbuing and enchanting gear that they needed a Mystic. And obviously they could have just put a post in town and have you enchant gear with the post. It didn't need a character.
Yeah.
But I guess they already had her graphics done, her story was done, so whatever.
The actor was paid for the voiceovers.
Yeah, once in a while I'll find the cart, about that cart in that one part of Act 1. There's some broken down wagon.
Oh yeah, with the mayor. Yeah.
Yeah, out in one of the wild areas, one of the surface areas right before Leorix.
Oh, you mean where you have to get the staff?
Yeah, and that we just all assumed that was where they were going to have the Mystic initially, because you save some fat lady and it's she's a Mystic.
Yeah.
And I still think that was where she was going to be, and then after people asked about that at some point, and Bashiak or somebody explained years ago, oh no, that's just another character who just happens to look like the Mystic, and she's part of the same clan, but she's not actually her. And she was never planned to be in the game at the time. I'm like, that's bullshit. Why would there just be this cart with this named quest and then never anybody attached to it?
Right.
It seemed pretty clear to me that was where she was going to be, and then they realized they didn't want her, so they just took her out, and we got her in Act 5.
Right.
But
yeah.
Or, the last time I played the story mode was about 2 years ago, so I'm not entirely sure that was the case, but I think it was Act 5.
Yeah, I don't remember.
So what are your main classes in D3? Have you played a lot of stuff over time, or you just focus on the DH? Or what?
I focus on the DH. I also played the Monk for quite a bit, although I haven't played him all that much lately. I don't really like many of the sets for the class right now, so every time I try to play my Monk, I kind of get bored really easily. I've tried pretty much every class, and I'm sure I'm going to revisit each one of them again in time, whether it be in seasons or non-seasons. The other class I really like is the Barbarian. I think it's funny, but I really love the skills of the Barbarian. I just don't like them aesthetically at all. I think they look terrible. And yeah, you can call it
male or female or both.
Both. Yeah, both. I don't like it, and I was talking to my buddy about it the other night, and he said the same thing. He goes, they just look so stupid, but their abilities are so much fun.
So you think they need bigger shoulder pads, or what?
No, I think they need to tone it down.
I don't know, their whole silhouette and everything, the armor, and don't get me started on Blizzard's art team. I mean, some of the armor sets just look, the graphics are so dated. I think it gets to me. It's who knows.
Well, what would a barbarian look like? I mean, he looks like Conan, right? And what else could he look like?
Well, the funny thing is, I got the collector's edition, the original collector's edition. I looked through the art book. I'm like, wow, like this is some awesome art. And then you play the game, and you're like, wait a second, where's this art? Like, there's some really good ideas in here, and they never made it into the game, and that, I guess, felt really disappointing. Even some of the Demon Hunter sets, we've seen some of that. Like Unhallowed Essence is a little, I don't know. It definitely feels more like a World of Warcraft set than a Diablo 3 set. But the Barbarian is fun. The mechanics of the Crusader I didn't really care for, although I do like some of the builds that they can come up with is pretty interesting. The class I probably played the least is probably the Witch Doctor. That would probably be what Xanth's specialty.
Are you just waiting for the Necromancer to come back?
No. If it does, I definitely want to play it because it sounds awesome.
Yeah, I don't think it would work in D3. I mean, just, so much of it was based on having corpses and being able to revive corpses, and it mattered what kind of monsters you killed, and you had to use them like as a material.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, D3 doesn't have corpses. They just vanish in 5 seconds or whatever.
Right.
At least they're not, clickable. They don't have any effect on the game. I mean, Corpse Explosion was like the best skill ever in Diablo 2.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, actually, in the first, like the demos, the beta, the name of it was actually the best skill ever.
Mm-hmm.
That was what it was called in the game. And it was just gory and horrendous. And of course, without corpses, you can't have Corpse Explosion.
Well, do you think they're more likely to bring that back versus a Druid?
And then put a Necromancer in Diablo 4. I mean, who knows?
Yeah, versus like a Witch Doctor or something.
I think that to some extent they're like stubborn and they want to promote their own invention.
Mm-hmm.
And if they go back to a Necromancer in D4, don't have a Witch Doctor, they'll be basically admitting that they were wrong and that fans were right. And they'll be like, no. As long as we don't have like Blood Elves, I'll be okay with it, basically. But no WoW stuff.
Hey, well, we're already getting the pets, so that's directly from WoW.
Well, that's funny because those were one of the things I liked a lot in the Diablo 3 beta.
Mm-hmm.
Was you had these little gold pickup pets you could get back then.
And that thing never bothered me. It's nice that they're trying to get some kind of collectibles in this game. I think we just need more of that. I mean, but they can't just introduce small amounts of it because then we kind of run into the situation where we are with like sets. There's only a few sets. They need to release large batches of these collectibles and continue to add on more and more. And like World of Warcraft, there's so many of them, and it just gives you a lot of different content that you could try to go after. And I think it's a good thing. I know some people probably don't think it's very Diablo like,
but you don't like any of the set graphics. So why would you want more item gear when you don't like the graphics as they are?
Well, I think that I think
you want more items with good graphics.
Yes. Yeah. Is that too much to ask?
Apparently, yes. According to you, apparently it is.
Well, you can definitely tell on some of the armor sets that they were better made, and you can definitely tell, like even through transmog, if you look through various classes, that the earlier stuff was definitely not done as well. But Unhallowed Essence doesn't look terrible, but you can definitely tell it's more WoW themed. And I think my favorite's the Marauder set, the way that it looks. I think second to that, Shadow Mantle looks pretty cool too. But
how big is your monitor?
24-inch.
I don't even notice what the sets look like. I just use whatever. Do you transmog all the time?
No.
Yeah, usually I'll get like to the next page in the season journey, and I'm like, why am I not advancing? And I go back and it's like, get to transmog something. I'm like, oh yeah, I never do that. I'll just page 4 or whatever, or page 3, whichever page it is. I'll be like, why am I not to the next page yet? And I'll go look. And I've already done like the entire next page. When it clicks up to you've already got like everything finished on the next one.
Right.
I'm like, oh yeah, I was like 20 levels late in transmogging something because I don't care about how they look. But there are people who really care about the looks and the wings and all that stuff. So good for them.
Yeah, I think the transmog was great because back in the day you would play in a group and everybody looked identical. I remember playing as a monk back then, and everybody was wearing the Innis set. And, you had 2 monks looking almost exactly identical, and it was great to be able to customize your character to a certain extent. And if you look at even between some of the armor sets, they've done a really nice job. But like some of the BlizzCon exclusive items, like they have one that looks like a furnace or something. I mean, that looks amazing. Like I'm like, why can't they do more of that stuff? People would love that, and I'm sure people would actually pay for that.
Yeah, the mystery of why we don't have stash for cash yet.
Yeah.
And purchasable capes and shit.
Well, we have seasons for that, which is driving me nuts that they're locking the stash behind seasons.
Do you not play seasons?
Well, I mean, I don't mind it, but I don't think that they should necessarily lock the stash base behind seasons. I think it's been a thing that everybody needs, and I'm sure people that play every single class fairly consistently probably need that stash base more than I do, but I don't feel like they should lock that behind that. I think that there should be some kind of an advancement for people on non-seasons as well. What I liked about seasons was being able to kind of play with skills and items that I hadn't really played around with all that much before. When you have an endgame character, you're not really going back and you're not playing with anything that's out of a set all that often and things like that. And I can totally see where Wyatt Chang was coming from when he said, hey, you haven't found your item, but you found this cool item and you're going to build something efficient around it. I totally get that. But
for like the first 3 days of the season.
Yeah, yes. Exactly. But then, like, at the end of the day, like, is that the kind of experience I want to go back to, for the next season? I'm not sure about that. Like, I'm thinking...
Well, you better get used to it, because that's what you get. Yeah. Like it or not, that's what we have.
Well, it's either going back for stash or a pennant, and that's it. And I'm not sure if that's enough for me to... Like, right now I'm looking forward to just taking some of the gear I've gotten for my seasonal Demon Hunter, mixing it up with my non-seasonal, and I know I have upgrades on my seasonal, and it's going to make an even better character. I might play around with that, and maybe I'll decide to give seasons a try. I mean, it doesn't really take that long to do the journey. It's more of like, do you want to go through the effort of it? Does it feel like work, or is it actually fun? I think is the question.
Until you get to the last page and you do 3 conquests, and one of them requires you to do 8 set dungeons, and then you just don't care and you quit.
And then you mastery.
I don't care. I didn't do the last page in the season journey. I did enough to get the stash tab.
Yeah.
And I just didn't care about getting a 3rd conquest. So bye. I'm just not going to do set dungeons, and I didn't care enough to play softcore for a week just to get the avarice buff. So I'm like, okay, done.
And they're nerfing that, aren't they?
Yeah, they're making it tougher. Guild of Barons aren't going to drop as much gold, so.
Right.
But I mean, who knows? They change the conquests around a lot between the seasons, so maybe they'll get something that's a little more skilled. I guess it's cool if there's one that's just sort of a random luck.
Right.
I mean, what if it was like find 2 bandit shrines in the same game? You'd be like, oh, that's bullshit. Absolutely no control over this whatsoever. You just gotta. I guess your control is clearing out the entire game 1,000 times, but hey, it's time for 50 more Nephilim Rifts. Let's hope for the best, right?
Well, I don't even know why it would be nice if, like, I mean, you play solo too, but if you're going to do, let's say, like Ubers or you do a bounty, like, you have to leave the game, reload the game. It just feels so clunky, like, I'm going to be farming up a new Ubers necklace after the season, and it's like I'm not looking forward to having to, kill them off, leave the game, rejoin. It's like, why can't you just do that in the game? Or when we had the auction house, why didn't we access, the auction house from in-game? Why do we have to leave the game?
Yeah, it is pretty ridiculous that they've never made reset all Ubers after you kill the 4th one, or everybody leaves the hermit shack.
Right.
I mean, why would they? What possible reason would you want to keep those open?
Right.
Like you're going to go back and visit it again, or? I guess it seems like it wouldn't be that hard to program, but for some reason they've never actually put that in.
And that's why, like, I'm just interested to hear, did you ever follow the developers that play your own way or whatever series they did?
Sadly, it's my job to follow those.
So if
I did transcripts of most of them.
So you get an achievement for having to watch all those, because they're pretty brutal. They're playing on.
Actually, it's a feat of strength, but you're very close.
Well, they're all playing, on low torment difficulty, and they were saying, we're doing this so we can concentrate on answering your questions, and it's so funny how they're getting so into the characters, and oh my god, I would be so bored right now, and they're totally making this more than it really is, and I'm thinking, like, how often do these people play this game, or are they just in so deep that they don't actually see a lot of the issues with the game that all of us see, and I don't know. I don't know if those developers go home and play and they're like, God, like this is so annoying. Why do we have this in game? Like, why can't you just reset Ubers? I have no idea.
That a lot of that stuff is just a lot of the programming backlog is because like the BattleNet features and stuff. I mean, there's a reason they took them 2 years to put commas in the auction house. Remember that?
Yeah, oh yeah.
And because the programmers who do that stuff are like working on like making Hearthstone interface properly with multiplayer or something. There's just like they can make changes in the game very quickly with the Diablo 2 programmers, but if they want to add more achievements, there were no achievements added like 4 patches in a row early on,
right.
Just because like there's different people who program that stuff, and they're all working on, Hearthstone or Overwatch or whatever other massive feature they have for BattleNet.
Right.
And so they get this bottleneck where they can't actually put new stuff in or new interfaces in. I mean, they mentioned recently they had the whole snapshot before the last season, the whole snapshot for your Greater Rift run, where you can actually see what the gear was when the player did the run.
Right.
That was functional in their internal version for like 6 months before it was ever public because they didn't have they just had a delay on getting it implemented with the UI.
Wow.
So like they had that feature working, and they all like forgot that it wasn't in the public game because they had it for so long in their internal versions.
Yeah.
And they finally they had like a UI programmer was available to just make a button that makes that operable or something. So it's, even as big a company as Blizzard, there are resource issues at times in places. You've been listening to the Diablo 3 podcast. I am your host, Flux, and thanks for our first-time guest, Cinful.
Thanks.
And I realize the only reason you wanted to be on the podcast is so you get to the end of the podcast, and at the end of the podcast, what do we do?
Moo. Moo. Moo.
Moo.